in many ways, growing up, we had our dogs.
Right.
Whoever thought about getting up and taking a purposeful walk with your dog on the mountainside? Never, so this is new for me. Yes, I think dogs are amazing. They're highly, highly evolved, and I think we have to catch up a little bit because their ability not to hold on to stuff, whereas we humans,
Yes.
tend to hold on to a little bit.
Hello, and welcome to Ask the Animal Healer. I am your host, Dr. Allecia Maine, and I am so excited to be here. I'm so excited to start this podcast, and I'm so excited to share with you, animal parents, so much incredible information from my amazing guests about their journey, their personal journeys, their journey with their animals into natural healing, and sharing with you a really, really cool body assessment and fascia release that I will do with their animals to show you what unified field healing looks like in real time. So for my first show, I am so honored to invite my guest, Mr. Peter Howe, who is I don't know what to say. He's just a lovely, stellar human being that I have the grace to get to know, and his beautiful dog and his beautiful wife. And so today what we're going to be talking about is Peter's journey through his healing expertise and what he has been learning from his dog, Evie. And then Evie is going to share with us how unified field healing works. So Peter, I know you have over 30 years of experience as a holistic practitioner, both nationally and internationally. You have experience in neuromuscular therapy and alternative healing. You assist people with stress and anxiety and depression and endocrine system issues. You also assist people in things in this lifetime and cutting cords from other lifetimes to bring us into our full presence and magnificence. And you work with conditions like Lyme disease and chronic pain and much more with non-invasive treatments, which is pretty awesome. So is there anything that I missed or anything that you'd like to share as we then start to dive into, telling me about your experience? Like, how did you get here and how did you start working with people and, having the healing capacities that you have?
Well, I'd say you covered things pretty good, if I do say so myself. And first of all, honored to be here for your very first podcast. Woo! And boy, does my dog appreciate that. Now I'm sitting in my office and here she is on her bed, the official bed or the couch, depending how it goes. But yeah, how I got here was total trial and tribulation, like many of us healers, if I can call myself that. We've had this lifelong journey of aches and pains and all sorts of health issues, emotional issues. And like myself, we've had to go through abuses, great losses, great betrayals. And, for what really got me, all of that growing up was huge. But what took the first step was I was an arborist and was faced with chronic acute pain, 4 separate surgeries, if I had gone the allopathic route. And back then, back in the 70s, when the hair was definitely a different color, the face was a little different too. The chiropractic was just entering Massachusetts legally. And so I went that route instead because I'd had my parents' friends who had gone under the knife and were worse off, etc. And everything in me said, don't go there. And through that journey of awakening to the possibility that you can change the physical body through chiropractic. And then I was introduced to polarity therapy. And through polarity therapy, I was introduced to neuromuscular therapy, which really, it's been over 40 years now that I've been in practice. Thumbs are very flat from tons of body work. And, that led me down the path of feeling like I could take more control of my life, because it
Were
was...
you having, so along with the physical pain, was there any awareness or recognition during that time? Was there any emotional pain? Was there any psychological stuff? Can you talk a little bit about what you have seen? Absolutely, we have the physical body, but it contains... would you be open to sharing?
Sure. I mean, I don't mind. Should we say I'm an open book at this point? So after 71 years, I definitely not much to hide.
You for 71.
Yeah. Well, we're hanging in there. Still touch my toes and still got some hair, which is great. So, and all my teeth. But anyways, yeah. I grew up with a mother loaded with cancer from age 3. She survived until I was 14. From 14, and about a year before that, my father had remarried. So previously, a number of years before, there had been the divorce and separation. And of course, no kid ever takes it on that it's their fault for the divorce to begin with, let alone that it's, not my fault that my mother got cancer, that she died. So there was that trauma. I moved into a family, or my dad, I'm not quite sure if he realized that his wife was very alcoholic and was very shut down emotionally. And I know as we moved in, my brother and sister, I'm the middle kid, we were not really wanted. And you could tell right off the bat, even though she put on the face. So there was that rejection. And my mother died just at the beginning of spring vacation. So there's no anchoring going on about, hey, let's have joy. We're going on vacation. And then as soon as I went back to my boarding school, I didn't realize until it happened. Well, shall we say I had been being groomed in my mother's final days through a male teacher. So I got the joys of, shall we say, losing my innocence through a teacher, and that I got to learn about the world of pedophilia because it followed me to my next school. And so inward suppression, tons of rage, anger that I, of course, turned into myself. And I'll just say through life's experiences, lots of neck pain, back pain. Gee, I wonder why, as many of your listeners are probably acknowledging, the body holds on and remembers, and due to our own guilt, shames, fears, you name it, we deposit it. And since we are energetic bodies, it's going to eventually manifest as a symptom.
Okay, well, I just want to be clear here, and I know I specifically asked the question because so often, right, we're looking for why do we have the pain that we have in our bodies? Why does this physical thing hurt? Why is my blood sugar this way? Why do I get these migraine headaches? Why, do I experience this lower back pain? And so often, whether it's with ourselves or our animals, it's such an important thing to be able to talk about, that it's not just happening in your brain. Right? You can't just fix the brain like with therapy. The body holds the score of what has taken place, of what has happened. And it's an important aspect to look at, not just when we're getting physical body work. We have to ask, is there emotional pain in here? Is there psychological stuff in here? we actually have to start talking to our bodies again, right?
Absolutely. I mean, in my work, I've taken someone with a frozen shoulder, and we release stuck emotions, and all of a sudden, boop, it's moving, or 20
Isn't that
years.
wild though, compared to Western? Well, okay, you have a frozen shoulder, so you have two choices: pills or surgery.
Or you go in and they knock you out and then they go rip, shred, tear. Or as a
Right.
neuromuscular therapist, I'm digging deep under the scapula and trying to create and break adhesions.
Yeah.
Whereas if it is an emotional issue, it's just where where there's chaos, there's always, right, that state of chaos, confusion, it's
Yeah.
blocking energy.
Yeah.
And injury can come through, it doesn't have to be a physical injury.
No, but that's what's so fascinating, right? Because so in Western medicine, it'll be like, okay, we only have like a choice of these couple things, but rarely are you ever asked, hey, listen, are you this is probably your lung points and stuff like that. Now, not to negate, there are physical injuries. You were skiing, you were doing something, right? Wear and tear stuff or an acute thing. But so often we're missing that whole component of what actually emotionally could be sitting in those places, creating those blockages, creating the potential need for, the definite need for release. But what are you going to do? Do you just cut it open, or you just give it a pill, or do you actually go to the root of being able to heal it and heal what's actually been sitting there and blocking the energy?
Excellent. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. And the part is, because we are so energetic in nature, and that little aspect of no two cells in us touch anyways. The couch I'm sitting on, no two cells touch. What the heck is going on? And yet that's where where you work and I work, is when I'm doing my distant work or work on people. It's about addressing that field, that level of energetics that has no
tangible,
quantitative, texture to it, right? And so we're in all those little spaces, is asking energy, light, consciousness, however you want to label it, to start flowing again.
Exactly. And so with the way you work and the way that you've learned to work over all, all of these years and studying all of these different modalities, what surprised you the most? Like, of the things that maybe, like, where you started in your life to then opening up to the awareness that these other things or these other areas are all part of the same, physical field. What has blown your mind open the most?
Well, I'm going to say what hasn't blown my mind, okay? We have to realize that we are so third dimensional, we get caught up. Come on up. You can.
You get to join the conversation.
Yeah. So we get so caught up in our third dimension, right, that we become dense. But having worked with and experienced people like Mauricio Panicet, the light man from Brazil, experiencing and helping out with Filipino healers, and being able to separate cells to remove negative energy, be it a tumor, be it whatever, just removing the chaos and bringing that light consciousness in, watching how things change. Same with all the Native American studies. It's about letting go here and expanding into that, metaphorically, the oneness that we all are connected. So, and every energetic level of studying, it always gets down to that. It's, It's breath, matter, and movement.
Ever wished you could just ask your pet what they need? With Can You Hear Me Now, an introduction to animal communication, you can do just that. Join me, Dr. Allecia Maine, as I guide you step by step to understand and speak the language of your beloved animals. Transform your relationship today. Click the link in the notes below on AlleciaMaine.com, and we will see you soon and get you communicating with your animals with ease in their natural language. So, in having a beautiful dog named Evie, who's probably sitting right next to you on the couch.
Just kicking back.
I'm just getting prepared for my in-sync assessment. But I would, because a lot of my work is integrated with animal communication and distance body healing and understanding Chinese medicine and knowing that everything is energy. And energy, when we talk about energy, so like if you were just to hold your two hands across from each other, you might, if you gently start pulling them apart, you might feel almost like a taffy-like kind of substance. That's energy. It's almost like this like plasma-y kind of feel. So from your experience as a healer, but also as a dog dad, do you sense that animals are aware of this energy field as well? Or have you had any experiences with Evie that led you to, whoa, you know, maybe these guys are more conscious or aware than what we're we're usually told, because we're told we're not usually conscious or aware. So it's like, woo.
So originally, I grew up on a farm, raising horses and sheep. You know, we had our dogs, we had our cats.
Yeah.
And it's funny, the evolution of, I'll say, pet now, you know, because the shift in consciousness and awareness. Before it was a dog, the dog stays outside, or the dog is, you know, part of the family, but don't get on the couch, don't get on the bed. You definitely have that set perimeter, right? Boundary. And, you know, I vowed I'd never have a dog that sits on the couch, or, you know, Evie joins us for dinner on the banquette. She'll come up and she'll rest her head and go, well, you know, so she has become an instrumental part of the family. And what I have definitely noticed with her, and really with a lot of other people's pets now, is there's a whole nother consciousness coming into them to make us more aware of, I'll just say, our limitations and our blind spots.
Was it always there and we're starting to wake up to it? Or do you think that it's like been coming in more or stronger? Like, have they always been connected with the unified field and we're just remembering? Or what's your sense?
I think it's a combination of both, because as we're raising our consciousness, that they're also getting to raise that consciousness. But there was always an awareness to them that we, I'll just put this, you go back to the world of Native American, they hunted with the wolves, right? And they had a complete understanding of what was going on.
Yeah.
And we superior humans, you know, have to put everything else in its place.
That old story.
Yeah, right? And I will just say, the more I release, how can I put it? The more I release my own judgments and limitations about our third dimension and what's around us, the more I can say, oh yeah, you know, Evie is so conscious and she can totally be aware if I'm, you know, if I'm even thinking about going somewhere Where is she? She's right by my side, right? Or, even touch a bag to pack. She is like, no, you can't do that. This isn't going to be fun. But there's that part of really getting to the point of just, all right, thinking, and she's already responding.
That brings up a great question, because before, I had a lot of experience with animals as a kid, but I, like you, right? I would never have thought of it outside of the 3D. It's just an animal. Like, I'm probably making it up.
Right.
Since I have studied Qigong and practiced Qigong a lot and spent a lot of time with the animals, I've come to really understand that their first form of communication is telepathy, and it is pictures. Because, like they say, a picture is worth 1,000 words, right? So it's just the most efficient form of communication, along with feeling, right? They're not up in their heads over analyzing and overthinking. They're feeling, and they're picking up the picture. So it's super important for us to be really literal with our pictures. But understanding that, somehow, like, working with them, and even like when I started dog training, it gave me this awareness of like this syncing up. Like, so, like, if you're on a walk with Evie and you think something or project something out, whether you recognize it or not, do you notice or do you observe, like you said, like there are times, like if you're going to pack, do you recognize, or how has it changed over the years from when you were younger to now, in like really understanding what that syncing up together, I guess what I would call communion, right? With all life, like being in communion with each other in the unified field, like what has it surprised you at all? Or have you learned from it? Have you grown?
I'll say in many ways, growing up, we had our dogs. Right. Whoever thought about getting up and taking a purposeful walk with your dog on the mountainside? Never, so this is new for me. I'm new. Evie's now 5. We got her when she was about 3 months old. And so we've gotten to really grow together. Yeah. And I'm just going to put in the plug for you right now. Since we've started working with Evie, I'm holding a whole different consciousness and presence with her. Beforehand, I was playing, because I do believe we all connect on that particular plane. That, I'll just say that level of consciousness. And so I was always practicing about calling her, by just projecting out. But as I'll just say, that awareness has even deepened even more since I started working with you with Evie. So, yes, I think dogs are amazing. They're highly, highly evolved. And I think we have to catch up a little bit, because their ability not to hold on to stuff, whereas we humans, tend to hold on to a little bit. And also, I will just say, in her intuitiveness, if I'm off, she'll be a little off.
Interesting.
So if I'm really on and just open, which is way more now than it ever used to be. Thank God. Thank whatever. I'm just watching these awarenesses with her, so.
What have you been learning from it, like about yourself? Because I often talk about how much, animals, not in all cases, but in a lot of cases, they mirror back to us certain things about ourselves, or they reflect certain things back to us about ourselves, some of which we want to see, some of which we might not. So, like, in the 5 years that you have had her presence in your life, are there things that you have learned because of her presence? Are there things that she's made you more aware of about yourself?
Well, I'll just say on the personal level, if I've become in that state of frustration,
Mm-hmm.
I will notice there's more of an offness to her,
Mm-hmm.
and she'll kind of stick to the corners more. And that's a slight exaggeration, but it's really teaching me how to get back into my center way faster, right? Because she's reflecting where I'm at. So it's like, what's up with you? Oh, right. What's up with me? Right. Right. So,
Yeah.
so we like that, that whole thing called mirroring. And she's really good at that. And I've never had such a sensitive dog.
Talk
And I
about
mean,
that. Because a lot of people, they just, like they either label their dogs with different things. But for you, especially as a healer and working with so many humans and having this dog in your life and being around a lot of other dogs, what do you see as the benefits of sensitivity? Because I know, like, when I was growing up, I was like, oh, you're so sensitive.
right.
And I wasn't the sensitive one. I was the bull in the china shop in my house. But then when I started uncovering that I really am sensitive, I was contending with all of those old beliefs about what being sensitive actually means. So could you share that from your perspective, as a human, as a healer, as a dog dad?
For me, being sensitive meant I was very vulnerable way back when, right?
Yeah.
And I had spent a lot of my life stuffing emotions until I got to a point where I couldn't stuff anymore. And then the realizations of the abuses, et cetera, came forward, right? And then I was able to start releasing body pains, neck pains, other issues.
Yeah.
And I'll just say in the sensitivities with Evie, if you even raise, I mean, she's a great barometer because you even just kind of go, Evie, she's like, what? And I've never had a dog like that, I mean, I've had some great dogs, but there's an awareness to this dog about when things aren't, I'll just say, in divine order, and when we are
divine order,
heard, right. And if my wife is off, definitely strong reflection with Evie, as in she'll be pulled back more, or she'll like try to find the safe spots, or she's out of the room. And same with me. If I'm off, if I'm being the grump in the moment, she's like, I don't want to deal with you guys. I'm out. Let me go to my favorite spot.
I'm fine on my own. Thank you very much.
Right. So what she reflects for me is take a breath, Peter.
Nice.
Get back to owning who you are now, instead of, most of our grumps are usually an old button from somewhere, some little shadow that still needs a little more cleaning out. And it's like, because, I look around, my life is amazing. What is there that I should be grumpy about? I do.
Sometimes it could just literally be our body's out of alignment a little bit and we're not breathing as deeply as we should.
Yep, exactly.
I mean, I have found in working with animals and tapping in and tuning in to that level of sensitivity in the body, even though I knew and understood about this, I too went for chiropractic care and I went for acupuncture and body work. But it was when I started working with the animals and their bodies and listening to them, I was like, oh my God, you guys just showed me how this pathway actually works. Like, we make things so overcomplicated and they're like, listen, it's really simple. You breathe. If your body structure is aligned, you'll breathe fully. If your body structure gets compromised, you won't breathe fully and it will affect your nervous system. And then that will send the data to your brain to have the cranky, chemistry.
Right.
And it's just so simple, like being with them once we don't take stuff personal, right? Once we get out of our ego and we're like, oh, right, that was me, my bad, sorry.
Right.
And like helping them just release things, it's astounding what can shift. And it's fascinating that we do so much science-based research tormenting animals when we can actually, if we can hear them and if we can tune in at these deeper levels and open up, right, past that 5D, how much information, science-based, nature's science and unified field science, we can receive so much information from them and help them shift behavior issues, health issues so simply and so naturally. And also us. Like,
well, yeah.
I didn't realize.
Right. I mean, being an energy worker and I'm clearing stuff with people, and if I've taken something on and I haven't been doing my dutiful clearing myself,
yes,
she'll be definitely a little wonky until it's like, what is going on? And I'll be off and it's like, oh yeah.
Oh, thank you for reminding me.
Right. But you were talking about, these animals' consciousness. What are they doing? They're training animals now to sniff out cancer. Hello. I mean, we are so behind the 8 ball as superior two-legged.
Yeah.
Well, we definitely see animals have their territories. Fine. But do you really see massive planetary destruction? No, because they really all want to get along. So small lesson there for us, right? Especially during these times.
I forget where I was. I don't know if I was like walking through the woods, but my mind was kind of open and lucid. And the animal said, so you realize that the natural world is 95 to 98% calm. And then there's, of course, food and feeding. But they said that's maybe 2 to 5% of the time. They said, you understand the human world is often 95% in chaos somewhere in the system. And there may be 2 to 5% calm. And I was like, oh my. It was like this, like when you drop like a droplet of water in a still lake and you're just like, oh, and the ripples of that when I just let that sink in. And I wasn't thinking about it. I didn't read anything about it, but the animal consciousness was like, we want to show you this. So it is fascinating how much when we get outside of the mental thinking brain and open ourselves up more to like the gut universal mind where everything is unified and connected, it's astounding how much more we can learn about things, especially from them. They've been here longer than us.
I think there's something to be said about learning how to become a witness. Yeah. And really get off of our proverbial high horse and really start taking some lessons about what it's really like to exist on the planet. And I don't want to sound holier than thou or anything, but they have lessons to truly teach us in that respect about, I'm going to kick back now. I'm going to go out onto my porch. She comes to ask, let me out. She'll go and take in the morning sun and, bask. And you can tell, she melds with the rays. It's really amazing.
Love it. I learned that from my wolf dog, Ayana, that, everybody thinks that alpha is angry, aggressive, dominating. And one day we were taking a walk and she said, do you understand why you get the results that you get with the people? And I was like, well, I teach them how to rebalance their breathing and how to physically, embody their body. And I was like, the harness and leash that I created is pretty helpful, for keeping everybody in sync. And she said, yeah, but she said, when we get home, I want you to look up the term alpha brainwave.
Oh, cool.
All right, reasonable. I don't know how you know that, but I'll look it up. So I look up alpha brainwaves, and it was amazing. It's calm, clear, consistent, creative, like in your zone of genius. And she said, don't you see that when you show people how to be this first and help them understand that they have an energy bubble that's much bigger than most people don't even know they have an energy bubble. She said, but that's what us, she never had puppies because she had been bitten by a black widow spider, and I just didn't want to affect her system. But she was just such a good mama. Like, she was so good with puppies I trained and with other dogs. And, she showed me all these pieces, and it was so mind-blowing what authentic alpha really is and how misunderstood and misidentified it was and why it got such a bad name.
Well, if we look at, the human condition, what is it? It is so much about it is aggression, right?
Yes.
Or it's negative. I mean, that's in especially society today. I mean, you listen to a conversation and it's 90% negative stuff. I don't like this. I'm not doing that. Blah, 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 blah. Oh, I'm not going to do that. Blah, 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 blah. Instead of as you were saying, let's take the breath. Let's take a moment and appreciate the fact that you can actually breathe in and out first and foremost, and that you have this innate consciousness that wants to move you to a state of healing. So let's just eliminate all those little blocks so we can be like Evie and go out onto the porch and lay out and take a huge breath and let it all go and start absorbing all the beautiful sun rays coming in and nurturing yourself.
And we literally are already living in heaven on Mother Earth if we would just get out of our thinking brain, which closes us off from our bodies. But
which is a whole part, right? Animals like to receive. Yes. We're very conditional receivers. And if we can get out of the way of that, then we could really get what our great mother that gives us everything that sustains us right now, and we forget about that. I'll just say an experience. I spent 20 plus years drum dancing, and I did my 16 years of a sun moon dancer, and each dance ended, because it's a dry fast for 3 or 4 days, so no food and water, and they break it with a water fast, or water ceremony. And just touching the water to your tongue starts bringing back an awareness, and you can follow through your body this awakening, right? And as my teacher, beautiful painted arrow, would say, water is liquid light, okay? And which is life. And it would bring me to tears. For over 20 years, I would weep at receiving something so simple. These beings are receiving, and they're just, I know, she's like, if you'd only understand.
She just said, she goes, you humans get it. So you overcomplicate everything. She's like, it is truly so simple. She's so funny. Yeah. So, wow. This is really fascinating. It's amazing how fast time can go when you're talking about
Yes.
things that you love and that like just yes, like, and it's not a judgment or a criticism. Like, oh, I just wish everybody would get it. Like, I think you and I are both could easily say we get it as much as we can get it. Like, we're human too. So, just being able to share this space and engage in that level of light, right? And expansiveness and understanding, like, hey, just like us, our animals can have emotional and psychological things that happen to them. And just like us, their bodies can, get bangs and dings and dents like in the fascia tissue, or the bones could move, and their breathing could be compromised and their nervous systems could be compromised. So one of the things I love to be able to share, since I did my PhD work with formerly wild horses, demonstrating over long distances how much body misalignment can affect behavior and even health. Love to do a demo with Evie in real time so I can, show you exactly where I am, tell you exactly where I am on what parts of her body, and we can see how she responds to it. And because you're a healer and a feeler, you can also let us know, like, what are you sensing? Because she's your dog, and how it's funny too. Not only could it help her, but a lot of the times, because of quantum entanglements, because our cells are entangled, it's interesting because a lot of the times the humans can also feel like, oh, that knot's out of my back now, and I actually feel better.
Right? Absolutely.
So, yeah. So are we okay to kind of?
I'm okay to segue, but can I give the audience a little bit of what we experienced with Evie before you did some work with her?
Absolutely.
Okay. So Evie, unfortunately, was always very, very head shy. And she also had a higher level of anxiety, still has some, but as we've been working, it's changed. And what brought me to you was she had an altercation with a dog, and it was a severe altercation, and the dog needed stitches, etc. And so it was just time to try and figure out what was going on with Evie. And a client of mine in Aspen referred me to you. And so we ended up starting to work. And I'll just say, as you went through her body, you certainly picked up, of course, I told you a little bit of her anxiety levels, etc. And even after the first session, after your initial adjustments and a few words with Evie, etc., her personality had changed drastically. Wow. Does she still have some quirks? Yeah. She still high pitchy noises still affect her, things like that, which hopefully we'll finally get to the root cause of that. But knowing her, she was spayed at 8 weeks old. Bad on the rescue area for doing that. She did have right after being spayed, she ended up with collar on, falling into a 6 foot, 8 foot well, and thus, a little wonder why with the collar on she had so much torsioning in her neck. She was a bounder and a leaper. I've never seen a dog that would jump off a cliff, diagonally, and she could clear almost 30 feet. It was unbelievable. Or she'd come up the embankment. I was standing there once, and she shot up and was over my head and then down. I mean, athletic completely. But, as you found out with her, she's had lots of torsionings. Through her abdominal surgery, you found adhesions and brain adhesions, etc. You found that she had nearsightedness or farsightedness. She could not focus to catch something. That's changed drastically. Wow. Her temperament is way down because you also found she had about a 15% grade headache. So, and you can tell the headache is gone. She's less sensitive being touched on top of the head.
So cool.
There's so many subtle personalities. See, now
That's shift.
I think she's comfortable. She said, okay, check me out, doc.
Abby, you're the best. She's like, I'm the princess.
I'm ready to receive.
Well, I'm always thrilled to do this work because so many, especially as a dog trainer, everything was referenced by the physical body. And if you didn't see anything wrong, if you didn't think anything, it could never be an emotional issue. It could never be, a body misalignment issue. It was just, the brain's off. So this has helped me learn so much directly from the animals about how much the body, the emotions, the psychology, and even the spirit of our beings is so tied in. And so when I work, I just very gently, obviously, Peter, you're in Massachusetts. I'm in Colorado. So we're at least 2,500 plus.
You have very long fingers. Very long fingers.
So what I'm going to do with my thumbs is I'm going to start right at the spot between Evie's nose skin and her hair, her fur. And I'm going to go up a couple points on the front of her face, about an inch off the midline. Then I'm going to go all the way down her back. And then I'm going to go all the way down her belly line to make sure that she's got no tight fascia that's pulling anything out of alignment. So here we go. I'm just asking her for permission. I'm just gently putting my fingers right where her nose and the fur start. We're actually pretty balanced there. You might notice Evie's breathing change. You might notice her stretch out. You might notice, I don't know, she's like just really comfortable.
Definitely comfortable, but as you started tapping in,
yes,
I could feel around her lung area, especially lung down through here.
Yeah.
All of a sudden just opened up a whole nother level.
Okay. Now I'm going to go from the start of her nose and her nose hair. I'm going to go 2 inches up on the top of her nose. So we got a little bit of a compression in the fascia tissue on the right. The left side feels fine. So I'm just going to gently release that. So you might notice my thumbs doing their thing as they release the tissue over long distances. Okay, now we're going to go up. There she goes. She's like, yep, I felt that release.
Look at her eyes. She's going, what's going on?
You are the freaking cutest. Now, I am not telepathically communicating to Evie that I want her to do anything. Like, I'm listening to what she says. I'm listening to her body, but I am not sending her any pictures. I'm not sending her anything. I'm in neutral. So now I'm going to go up to the next point. I'm going to go 2 inches up on her face. So we're about midline in her nose, where if she was wearing a nose halter, that's where my fingers would be. So there too, the right side is a little bit compressed down in the tissue. Left side actually feels fine. So I'm just releasing the right side tissue. Okay, now I'm going to go another 2 inches up. So I'm about 2 inches below her eyes. Nothing's really off balance, but it feels a little bit pulled together in the center. So I'm just going to release the tissue there. Excuse me, I have a piece of olive in my tooth.
And I'll just add the 2 cents that since you started working with her, her gait has changed, which is way more open. Awesome. She holds her head differently. Wow. And there's as you know, she's had some shoulder or ankle issue, and that has resolved so much more compared to where it used to be.
Wow. Okay, so now I'm going to go right underneath her eyes. So we're a little bit, again, just a little bit pulled in with the tissue towards the center of her face. Okay.
So you can pay attention if I'm talking, right?
Yeah, totally.
Because I want to share some with the with your audience. So
go to the corner of her eyes. Go ahead.
Evie was on the bed, and you had just finished going up through, and you were just getting into the cranium and the brain, and you found this strong adhesion. And then you said, let me know if you see anything different. Evie opened up her eyes, but her eyes had sunken in about a half an inch, and all you could see were the whites of her eyes, and as if she was so not there. And your work had taken her out of body in so many ways. It was really wild to watch. Janice and I looked at each other and just kind of went, wow. So anyway, just to share with your folks that are listening that the depth of your work that
Aww.
many people should get to experience, because it's what you've done for the pooch is amazing. So she even nodded yes.
Well, so I'm on her eyebrow points, the corners of her eyebrow points. So the right eyebrow point was kind of pulled downward. And so as you were speaking, I was like, okay, I'm just going to keep releasing this. And it's interesting because it's literally what it feels like to me sometimes is like, okay, something was misaligned, and then all of a sudden it goes clonk, right? Like right back into place. And no, it might sound crazy that, we're 2,500 miles away. How are you doing this? This is quantum physics in action. I think that we are the quantum science. The animals are the quantum science. This whole planet is the quantum science. It's not some super complicated, it could be mathematically and scientifically, it could be like a super complicated, equation. But this is actually how it works in real time. There is no separation in time and in our energy fields if we don't want it to be.
Exactly. And just as in my work, if I'm working with someone and I can feel that blockage, which you're feeling, right? Or that resistance. And then for me, I can get mental images, if you will.
Yeah.
Or a word will come forward to describe what I'm sensing.
Yeah.
Saying, then this is exactly what you're doing. You are now with Evie in essence and reflecting her essence within you. Is that a good way of putting it?
Yeah. And I'm not taking on anything from Evie,
Right.
and Evie's not taking on anything from me. I'm just touching points where where my finger kind of meets her physical, and just asking her body, like, is there anything I can do for you here? Is there anything I can do to help support you here? Is there anything I can release here for you? And Peter, like with your work also, are you, when you see sometimes those images or you hear that word, is that helping connect people to what might be going on also, like emotionally or psychologically for them?
Yes.
Of where the energy got stuck?
Yep, absolutely.
Awesome. So I think, go ahead, sorry.
Oh, I'm just going to say that, we'll do the work and then someone could get back to me during the next session or something. I just remembered after our session, blah, 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 and that was like, exactly. And how is your back now? Or how is your digestion? Oh, it got so much better, so like, hello.
Yeah. So hopefully, and we're going to make this happen, Peter and I are going to start doing monthly sessions where Peter will work with the humans and I will work with the animals in a group setting. And we'll see what are the energies that are coming up to be released. And so, just releasing those energies, as much as it might sound weird, like, how can you do that without just by talking to it? Or how can you do that just by, working on an animal at long distance? Again, this is just the scientific proof of the quantum energy field. This is the quantum physics. This is literally how it works in real time. So I checked the points on the top of Evie's head and everything actually feels pretty good. So now I'm going to come back behind the back of her head to her occiput. Right side is pushed forward a little bit. Left side is rolled back a little bit. So I'm just releasing the tissue there. Then I'm going to go to her C1. So C1 on the left is a little compressed downward towards the ground, and on the right, it's a little bit popped up. So I'm just releasing that. She just looks so relaxed.
Totally.
And like when that C1 release and our kind of left paw started to bounce a little bit, like that's what happens. Energy does, even though it's pretty fluid and you can't always see it, you can definitely feel it. And you can definitely feel when certain tissue is stuck. What it can do is compress bones. Those bones can compress nerves. So what this work does is it just helps open the energy flow.
And I'll say another observation. Since you started working with her, she was one that was, as a pup, she'd splay like this all the time. And as she grew older, she wouldn't expose her belly at all. And for me to go rub her belly, she'd get really nervous and vulnerable feeling. And it was like, but I just want to love you, you know. but she didn't, you know, there was this trust factor.
That's where C5 was compressed on the right, downward, and popped up on the left. So I released that, and then I went to C6, and C6 was compressed down on the left and rolled forward on the right. So she's just releasing that. It's cute, though, as you're talking about it.
Yep.
And especially where I am on her body, that tightness in C5 and C6 could have been compromising why she feel more protective.
I would concur with that 1,000%.
She looks like a little puppy right now.
Doesn't she? Yeah.
Yeah, she does. She feels like one. Okay, so her C7 is on.
And what the audience needs to know is when we're working within the essence of who you are.
Yes.
Not what you should be or what you were per se.
Exactly.
We're in the essence of the nowness.
The nowness and also that energy field. So even though we know from a science level, okay, all of the things, and not all of the things, but most of the things anatomy and physiology wise, there's also a whole bunch of processes that take place that Western medicine doesn't always cover, that I found through my work with Qigong and in Chinese medicine. The subtle energies are what's running everything. So when you get to a place where you can get out of the concreteness of the physical mind and the physicality, when you start working at that essence level, like Peter just shared, things don't work in the 5D world the same way that they work in the 3D world. In the 5D world, it's much easier oftentimes to shift certain things, to be able to release tension in the body that is also could be storing. That's her T6. She was compressed on the right side downward, and like the left side was popped up and pushed into the midline. So, you know, we're working in a field here that we can't often access when we're in our head, you know, and that's why Evie might be resting peacefully and relaxing a lot more deeply. And would you, from your experience, like, would you say that when we work in this aspect of the field, it's often easier to shift things, because in the quantum field, like, it just happens in real time. Touching her, these, you know, even though we're thousands of miles away, I touch her T6. She's like, yeah, I got that. I felt that.
Well, and working in that field, there's really no judgment. There's no angers. There's nothing except the true essence of light consciousness, or that unconditional love, if you will, if people are groping for something to attach to.
That's her T10.
Right. Because
it's compressed down on the right and up on the left. She's so cute. She's like, I'm so happy that I get to like share this with people. I'm like, well, I'm so happy you're so happy. Okay, T11.
Oh, that's a good girl. Yeah.
It's so funny. I hit her T10 and I was about to go to her T11 and her ear popped up and she was like, excuse me.
Yep.
I was like, okay, I will go back to T10. Abby, you almost have a smile on your face. T11.
And her look in her eyes is like, there is something happening here.
That's T12. That was a little restricted. T13.
You can tell she's following it.
No, well, to me, being able to do quantum physics as opposed to understanding how it works in an equation on a board is very, very different. And then to have that sensitivity now, to be able to recognize like what she's feeling, what she's receiving, even in that my fingertips at 2,500 plus miles away could feel what she's feeling and unwind it for her. This is what I hope more and more people understand. Like all this stuff that everybody says, well, we know all this, we know, but truly we don't really know. I'm like, well, here it is. This is what you get to know.
Yep.
You don't have to know all of that stuff. The animals don't care. They see it as very simple, you know.
And if people want sort of the picture, look at what she's doing is she's realigning the energetic blueprint of Evie.
That's
and
right.
In those areas, they have injuries, and all she's doing is now filling that energy with a different those points of chaos, if you will, or resistance, with more light and so more energetics to flow again.
Totally. And so inside our animals' bodies, just like our bodies, there is a whole entire neural network, not just for the brain, but there's fascia tissue, which almost looks a little bit like stretched out cotton candy, that covers the entire inside of the body. And from my experience of working with the animals, what they have told me is that tissue can kind of get banged and dinged like a dent in the car. And they can still function, but that whole neural network is what flows the chi energy. So chi is even like subatomic to blood, all right? You got to have chi. When you breathe, the chi is moving. So when they get those bangs and dings, they're still alive, they're fine, but it closes down some of the pathways to breathing as deeply, to allowing that chi to flow through their whole body. And when that happens, that's when we can see issues with behavior. That's when we can see issues with health. With health, it does not always mean that it's a bacteria, virus, fungus, or a parasite. It could just be an energy disruption in the body that can happen as simply as, two dogs were running, they collided, somebody's fascia is compressed. They're fine for a while, but then you start to see them slow down, or you start to see them get grumpy. And as soon as you can open that up back up for them, everything shifts. And it's just, Peter, I'm sure you've had this experience too with your clients. It's kind of astounding at how fast it can shift.
Yeah.
Based on what we're told by Western medicine, like, oh, that can't help unless you take a pill or unless you take a surgery. It's like, well, what if you don't have to go there?
Exactly. Right.
So she's fine stretching. She wants to get out.
And the research now coming about fascia.
Yeah.
Now fascia actually carries cerebral spinal fluid out to the area of injury.
Exactly.
But we have to realize that fascia is just actually one piece of tissue that encompasses all our organs, all our nerves, all our blood vessels and arteries and brain, et cetera, et cetera. And if there is an adhesion here, it's going to affect way down there.
Totally. So, and right now on her L7, which is a little sticky, so that's why she's sort of shifting herself around, like you just said, right? Even though I'm in her back end, look at what happened. Her front end shifted, and then she took a deep breath.
Yep.
So.
And she's saying, everybody stop staring at me.
But you're so beautiful. All right. Her S1 is a little sticky.
Absolutely.
S2, S3. We're okay there. Okay. Now I'm going to come around and do so I went from her nose all the way down to her tail. And so what I am doing is the in-sync body assessment and fascia release technique. The animals help me create it, and I also teach it to people. So if you ever want to learn how to do this work on body or off body to keep your animals healthy and balanced, I teach courses, and you're welcome to check in the description if you'd like to learn. All right, so now I'm on her shoulders. Okay, so her left shoulder is a tiny bit tighter than her right, and I'm just going to have you stop petting her just so I'm not mixing up because of that quantum entanglement thing. I'm like, who am I working on? Evie or Peter?
Right. Well, I could use my right shoulder, really.
All right, well, it's opening. So her left shoulder is released. Her right shoulder's open. Okay, I'm going to check her chest bone. So we're a little bit shifted off to the right and a tiny bit high. So I'm going to release that back into place. There we go. And now I'm going to just draw a line of energy from her chest bone all the way down the front of her chest, all the way down through her belly. And this is usually what I call the emotional line, because when I check this on animals, this is where I usually find emotions stuck and their breathing is often compromised. And when they feel my fingers on those points, they tend to, if they're stuck, tend to take a deeper breath, which all of a sudden clears the emotions, just like we were clearing tension or static in the back. Okay, so I'm down through her chest and her diaphragm, and all that feels pretty good. So a little bit stuck in her solar plexus. So I'm just going to hold my hand there. What are you noticing in terms of Evie? Because she's your dog. She's with you all the time. So you know her better than anybody. Like, how is she? How do you sense she's feeling? Has she been feeling what we've been doing?
Oh, I definitely know that she's been feeling. You could see it in her eyes when she was facing the other way. You can watch her sensing through her body when you were working, doing what you were doing. There was no doubt about it. Now, I'm not quite sure, but I can definitely say there's I'll just say another sense of deepening within her field.
That's awesome. That is awesome, because when the body is relaxed, it relaxes the nervous system. When the nervous system is relaxed, the data that goes to the brain, telling it what chemistry to emit, is going to be a lot more optimal than when the animal is in a constricted space. So a lot of this work with fascia tissue is just helping the body drop in and relax into its natural original blueprint so it can instantly feel better.
And that's with my work, your work, what we're doing is we're balancing the parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous systems, removing those folks, those animals from their flight, fight or flight response, and allowing them to become more present in their own day and literally their own skin.
Yes, which is a really nice feeling, because when you get disconnected from the energy field of communion with all life, or living in heaven on Mother Earth, it can kind of seem like hell. And then you have this like, oh my God, I'm back. Like everything really is good. What are we doing? What are we miscreating here? All right, so I went to Evie's hips. Her right hip was rolled forward just a little bit. Left hip was rolled back just a little bit. So I'm just realigning that for her so she feels balanced. There we go. And now I'm just going to put her in an energy healing grid. So any interference in her body that she was experiencing, any dents in the fascia, now that's all gone, resolved, and now she can move forward from here and feel relaxed and unrestricted.
And as you started that, her breathing went deeper.
Awesome.
So thanks for taking care of Evie.
So welcome. What do you think, girlfriend? Huh? He's like, I'm just gonna chill.
Yeah, I'm gonna chill until that WALK time.
Right?
And then it's like, hello.
Yeah. Peter, thank you so much. Thank you. I have experienced Peter's work as well. And honestly, he's just fantastic. Like, he's got such a pure heart and a pure spirit. And it is, not only is it so transforming to work with him, but it's so much fun, which is often, we get lost in, like, when we're clearing old stuff and things like that. We're like, but to actually be able to have fun, and how he helps human beings can reconnect literally with the field of communion and releasing old stuff that sometimes you can't track this stuff in your brain. Even if you tried, you literally have to go, you can't track it from your mental, logical, rational brain, because some of the things that come up in the body, it's not logical and rational. It could be from a past life. It could be from something that happened that you literally were so traumatized, you just had to go up into your head. Your head created a story, and you can't even find it if you tried to look for it. So you have to get into a space of relaxing so much. The vigilance that we usually tend, or the protective armor that we tend to carry, so that the body who was there at the time it happened can just gently bring up the memory. We can experience what we need to feel. We just get to move through it. And Peter is excellent at that. So I highly recommend his work. Can you share with us how people can find you and how people can find your work?
Peter, what is PeterHoweHealer.com is one way to find me.
Okay.
So PeterHowe, and the word healer, HEALER, not your HEEL. So anyways, that's one way. And then if you've got a pencil there, 508-838-1101. That's a fairly easy number for folks, 508-838-1101. Yeah, I think, I'm just going to replug back to you. What she has done, what I've felt within myself when we started working with Evie, and you did that nice little breath for Janice and I, and we kind of just it shifted so much within me. Wow. That when we're connected, and I'll just say, we're always, I love the adage, we're a bunch of walking onions. I spent a lifetime working on myself and trying to become more aware and responsible for who I am, to respond with my abilities, and which means, and the joys of being of service is what keeps me really going on this planet. And I spent 71 years trying to become more of a witness, so I can hold a bigger space. And in your work, ditto. And for all of us, the lesson is, how can we become more of a witness? Very simplistic, but we live in a very third dimensional world that presents density, but it's really not that dense.
It's not. And it's, as soon as we start breathing, as soon as we get out of our head, which is often so many times why we love being around our animals. Yep. Because they get us out of our head. They get us back into our bodies. They get us back into our heart. They're very compassionate. They're very loving. And they're like, see, it's so easy to do this for yourself too.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for making my first debut episode of The Animal Healer such
beyond honored.
Beautiful experience. I hope for all of you, my goal through this work is getting to know my guests and the amazing things they do in the world, getting to know your animals on a deeper level, and understanding this quantum field, so we really can keep living in heaven on Mother Earth. And we can do that very, very consciously. So I hope that you are able to pick up that energy from this podcast. If you'd like to learn more about my work, or if you'd like to study with me or learn how to do this work, You can look at the links in the descriptions, and you can always find me at Allecia Maine, Allecia Maine, MAINE.com. And we'll figure out how to post an update on how Evie is doing and how she's feeling. Can we take a look? Is she still her back turned, or is she?
Oh, she's still just, nestle that nose into something.
Like, I
think she loves to feel her breath.
Love it.
Which is kind of cool. Oh, you froze.
Whoop. We might have lost.
Yep. No, I'm here. You froze for the moment. Let me see if that can do it again. So what I had said is she loves to nestle her nose, and I think she loves to feel breath. Her breath. I think there's an awareness to that, which obviously what's happening in society now, all the awareness about breathing and how it shifts, it's
everything goes better with breath, right? It's the one thing, if you don't have it in 2 minutes, you ain't here. It's the least expensive thing. We were given it for free. We just have to remember how to rebalance it, because if there were traumas in the body or to the psyche or to the emotions, we get restricted, and now we're just opening it back.
That's friends. That's Nav. Isn't that your friend, Nav? Yes, it is.
All right. Thanks to you. Thank you so much for joining me.
It's been a pleasure. Lots of love to you and the universe, as they say. So thank you.
And check out Peter's work. If you are having issues with your body, if you know that there's a chronic ailment that you're dealing with, if you know that there's a chronic emotional piece you're dealing with, Peter is amazing. I cannot highly recommend him enough.
Thanks for the plug.
Have a great day, everybody.
Great blessings.
Thanks for tuning in to Ask the Animal Healer. I hope today's episode inspires you to build even stronger bonds with your animal companions. Don't forget to visit our website, AlleciaMaine.com, to discover more about how you can revolutionize your relationship with your best friends. See you next time for more insights and stories right here. Until then, keep listening and loving your furry animal family members. Bye.